Hi, welcome back, and this is the serious version of the Dirt 5 review, as I think I may have got a bit carried away and not been particularly, shall I say, neutral in that video. So I'm going to attempt to do one properly, and I've even put the scoring system to it. So let's start over again, all grown up now. So introduction to basically Dirt 5. Codemasters have handed the reins over to a new team and they're using a new engine. And so Codemasters have released the latest in the numbered Dirt titles, which means return to an arcade side of the series. So let's see how well it does as an arcade title. And we're going to kick off with Driving Simulation, which I gave it a 3 on. Because even when compared to the last arcade-based Dirt title, Dirt 3, Dirt 4, but also Dirt 3 as well, this is a step backwards in terms of physics modelling, with very little feel of anything approaching complexity under its skin. Now, to explain why this is such an issue, I want to talk about both Gravel and The Art of Rally as counterpoints. These are two titles that are also firmly arcade-based, yet they quite clearly have a depth to the engine that gives you that nuance to the handling, even with a gamepad. And it makes them easy to pick up and drive, but a challenge to actually master. And Dirt 5 is simply missing that. And it makes for handling that just wears thin very quickly, even for an arcade title. It's not helped by the fact that some vehicles like the sprint car are just plain terrible to handle, and pretty much every event that takes place on ice are not far behind in that regard. And these even further rob any sense of enjoyment from the events. So moving on to Racing Simulation, and I gave it a 4 in terms of Racing Simulation because the AI is, to be blunt, aggressive to the point of just not being fun. And when you add in aggressive rubber banding that only seems to favour the AI, it ends up committing one of the worst sins possible for an arcade title, and that's a lack of fair challenge from the AI. Codemasters seem to have wanted to basically take the aggression you get with Rallycross and just up it massively. But what they fail to understand is if you mix that with severe rubber banding and the type of stage and track design in Dirt 5, it just stops being fun and just really quickly gets frustrating. Right, so Motorsport Simulation. Well, basically it hasn't got one, it's just got a mess of a career instead, which takes a simple premise: the rookie starting out and being put under the wing of a senior driver stroke team owner, with the story around this told via voiceovers that are thankfully skippable. That's mainly because the Donut Media guys are providing a great deal of these voiceovers, and for me that makes it damn hard to even attempt to sit through. Not that actually any of it actually explains what the structure of the event progression is. You rather seem to have 3 different scores given to you at the end of each event, only one of which seems to have a great deal of impact, and that's the game's currency. The remaining 2 have no meaningful impact on progression at all. Add in that the events themselves have no coherent structure to them, and you're just simply jumping from event to event with only the car type swapping, and even event types, they're not actually tied to any type of car in any way, and almost all are simple finish and that's it. You don't even have to finish in the podium. It's just bizarre. The only exception to that is Gymkhana, which have a stunningly low bar in terms of being able to finish them with scoring a certain number of points, but it's again very simple. And in fact, most events don't need a win or even a podium to complete. In a similar vein to Project Cars 3, you just need to pass one of the 3 objectives for the race. Well, that is until you reach the next tier, which I'll set arbitrarily and have no logic behind them, or if all of a sudden you now need to finish on the podium. Now, I'll be honest, I don't have an issue with an arcade title not following a traditional motorsport structure, but it would be nice if it followed some kind of coherent and meaningful structure at all. So we move on now to accessibility, and I'm giving it a 5. Now, this is an odd one, as normally accessibility is an issue for gamepad users, with many sim titles not catering well for them at all. However, in a bid to be different, Dirt 5 has good gamepad implementation, despite the poor physics engine, and it's wheels that are appallingly supported. A day or two before launch, they did say that wheel support would be limited, without clarifying what limited would be. Now, my T300 and TLCM pedals do work with Dirt 5, however, I use the term at work in its most basic way. As any sense of force feedback you may expect simply is absent. It's like steering a noodle. Now, I've come to expect Dirt titles to have poor wheel support at launch. After all, that was the case for both of the Dirt rallies. But this is a new benchmark in terms of poor force feedback implementation. But I guess I should count myself lucky, at least mine worked. On my PS4 Pro, it's also worth noting that while it does look damn good, screen tearing was a far too common issue unless I set the video option to favour resolution, and I expect those on base consoles will not be able to avoid it at all. Those on PC, I have had a number of stories of people not even being able to get it to launch, with crashes to desktop being all too common. Right, moving on to content, and it gets an 8 because this is one area that Dirt 5 does well in. The car list is wide and varied, with some seriously odd and interesting stuff in it. Also has a good range of locations to pick from. However, the issue is that this all feels a bit redundant, as you get given the base car in each of the car classes, and there really is no need to change from this at all. I honestly only bought a different car to these because I got bored and wanted to see if anything actually felt different in any way. And they don't. Cars within the same class all feel pretty much the same, which again is something the best arcade racers manage to avoid. What you do get is an excellent photo mode, and I'm a sucker for a good photo mode in games. Unfortunately, Dirt 5 has no replays. Yeah, that's right, no replays at all, so you have no choice but to pause gameplay to take a photo, which is one of the most asinine design choices I've ever come across. You get a basic but functional livery editor being offered, and a great playground mode which allows you to build a massive range of Gymkhana style events. If only the title had an engaging and absorbing physics engine to take advantage of it. Which moves us on to value, and it gets a 4 because having a large car list with a wide range of locations alone doesn't make for a good value title, and Codemasters seem to have no understanding of that at all. It's all pretty graphics and visual spectacle, yet that veneer is very thin, and when you get below it, what remains is shallow and boring. As such, the true value, replayability, is simply absent from it. It's telling that I fired up Gravel when putting this review together to compare it, and ended up spending more time with that than I had with Dirt 5 in the same evening. So in summary, it is quite frankly impossible for me to recommend Dirt 5 at all. Yes, it looks good, but so do many other titles that have much more actual depth and enjoyment to them. Depending on your platform, you could pick up the likes of Gravel or even Dirt 3 for less money and get so much more out of them. They may not look as good, but I'm sure you'll actually spend far more time with them. It will at this stage require honestly a massive amount of effort over the coming months for Codemasters to manage to turn this title around, and I for one have little faith that they will manage to do it. So yeah, I still can't recommend it. So there we go. If you found this useful, please do hit the like button down below, and if you want more content like this, just subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when new content gets uploaded. Thanks very much.